We're going to go over some problems from 5.5 Algebra 2 Honors, and then we'll follow those with some that were from the last quiz I gave. But we're going to start with the 5.5 ones. Addition and subtraction. To add or subtract fractions, you need a common denominator. To find that denominator, you have to factor everything. So you have x plus 3, x minus 3. Plus, you have x plus 1, and this would factor into x plus 3 times x plus 3, or x plus 3 quantity squared. How do I know that? 3 plus 3 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. It's one of the perfect squared trinomials. So, I need a common denominator. You take the highest power of every factor that you see. I see an x plus 3, and I see it squared. That's the highest power. I see an x minus 3. What does this side need to make x plus 3 to the second? If you have x plus 3 to the first, you need another x plus 3. So what does that give me on top? X squared plus 3x, right? Now, on the other side, I need what? I believe I need the x minus 3. I already have the squared, I need the x minus 3. So I do this, and this gives me x squared minus 2x minus 3 if you were to FOIL it out. If you're wondering how I do it rapidly, this is what I do. I add these, that gives me the negative 2. Then I multiply them, and it gives me the negative 3. So that's how I'm able to multiply binomials rather rapidly, as I know the pattern. Again, you add these for the middle one. Negative 3 plus 1 is 2, and you multiply them to get the last one. Anyway, what's x squared plus x squared? 2x squared. 3x and a negative 2x is a positive 1x, and I think there's a minus 3. And on bottom, you have x plus 3 quantity squared, x minus 3. Let's see if this factors on top. If it factored, it would factor into 2x, which wouldn't cancel, times x, which might cancel with something. What is a times c on this last one? Let's go with purple. A times c is negative 6. B is 1. So that'd be 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, and if you add them, you'd get a 1. So 2 goes into the negative 2, negative 1, and this would be a 3. However, I don't think anything cancels, does it? So I'd probably take any of these last answers. Most likely that one is what people gave me. Okay, moving on, we need a common denominator on number 29. I'm going to take one of each of the denominators, such as x minus 4 to the first, x, and 3x minus 1. There's a plus, there's a plus. What does the first one need that it doesn't have in the denominator? It needs an x and a 3x minus 1. An x times 3x minus 1. That would give me the denominator that I need. So what does this give me on top? It gives me a mess, which I need to make a little room so that I can do this work. So bear with me. Okay, so if I multiply the purple part, I have x times what? 3x minus 1 times x plus 2. What does that give me? X times, this would be 3x squared plus 6x minus 1x minus 2. So that's 3x squared plus 5x minus 2, which becomes 3x cubed plus 5x squared minus 2x. 3x cubed plus 5x squared minus 2x. Any questions on the first term with the proper denominator? In the middle, I'll use red. What are we missing in this denominator? You have the x. What don't you have? The other two. So you'd have x minus 4 times 3x minus 1. X minus 4 times 3x minus 1. And if I was to multiply that, what would I have in the red? I would have 2 times x minus 4, 3x minus 1. That's x squared, 3x squared, isn't it? 3x squared. That would be minus x minus 12x and plus 4. So that would be 3x squared minus 13x plus 4. Let me verify. Negative x, negative 12x. Yeah, that's right. So that would give me 6x squared minus 26x plus 8. So that's what's going in the middle here. Would be 6x squared minus 26x plus 8. You'll notice I'm trying to color code each of these because this is a longer one. What is the last term missing? The last term is missing, it has a 3x minus 1, it's missing x and x minus 4. So this one you got to multiply by x times x minus 4, x times x minus 4. So that gives me 5x, really 5x squared times x minus 4, right? Which is 5x cubed minus 20x squared. 5x cubed minus 20x squared. Finally, let's combine all of our like terms. 3x squared and 6x squared is 9x squared. Plus 5, I think, makes 14x squared. I'm sorry. I am wrong. One of them's a cube, isn't it? You have a 3x cubed. That's the only cube up there, plus 5x cubed. Does that look right? 3x cubed plus 5x cubed is 8x cubed. Are there any other x cubes? How about x squareds? You have 5 and a negative 26. I'm sorry. We're doing x squares, right? So you have 5 and a 6. Is that right? What is 5x squared and 6x squared and the negative 20? I know. But 5 and 6 is 11. Minus 20, does that make negative 9? And how about x's? You have a negative 2x, a negative 26x, that's negative 28x. Are there any constants on top? Looks like there's an 8 right there. And it would be over x, x minus 4, 3x minus 1. That one's a challenge because you had to find a pretty large common denominator, 3 different terms. Again, addition and subtraction seem to be the more complex ones because you have to get a common denominator. This one is a complex fraction. You're going to multiply by the common denominator over itself. In the denominators, I see an x minus 2, and an x plus 1. So I'm going to multiply that on top and on bottom, on the numerator and the denominator. When I multiply here, the x minus 2's cancel, and what remains? A 16x and an x plus 1. When I multiply here, what cancels? Do the x plus 1's cancel? And what remains? 4 times x minus 2. When I multiply here, what cancels? The x with the x, right? And what does that leave me? There's a plus in here, so I'm going to put a plus. What does that leave me? 6, x minus 2, x plus 1. On top, I'm going to leave it factored because it's already factored. On the bottom, I'm going to expand it, then try to factor it. 4x squared minus 8x, if I distribute, this would be 6 times x squared minus x minus 2. So that would be plus 6x squared minus 6x minus 12. 16x, x plus 1 is in the numerator. In the denominator, we have, what, 10x squared? 6 and 4, negative 8, negative 6, negative 14x. Any constants? Minus 12. I could factor a 2 out of that. If I take a 2 out of the top, would it be 8 times x and x plus 1? If I take a 2 out of the bottom, that would be what? 5x squared minus 7x minus 6. Canceling your 2's. I believe that's probably the answer they're going to have. Does the bottom factor? Are there factors of negative 30 that add to negative 7? I think there are, so I'm going to keep going. We have 8x times x plus 1 on top. How does this thing factor? Well, it'd have to be 5x times x, right? A times c is 30. A times c is 30. That's 5 times the negative 6, so it's negative 30. And what is b? Negative 7. So what about negative 10 times 3? Do they multiply to negative 30? Yes. Do they add to negative 10? Yes. So 5, you put the negative 10, and inside you put the 3. 5 times what is negative 10? Negative 2. 1 times what is 3? 3. Here it is in factored form, but nothing cancels. Here it is in another form which I would accept because, again, nothing simplifies. Now, the one I gave you on your quiz, I think, was significantly easier than the one from the homework. Here, your common denominator is, you have 3, 9, and x. You want the highest power of everything you see. So my common denominator is going to be 9x. What's 9x times 1/3? 3x. If I multiply here, the x's cancel. 2 times 9 is 18. Multiply here, the 9's cancel, leaving me the x. So again, I think that one was significantly easier than number 33. So hopefully you did okay on the quiz one. Okay, some more from the quiz. I think I was asked 3. I gave the option of simplifying first or simplifying at the end. I was told to do the problem and simplify at the end. So you're going to stay, change, flip. So I'm flipping this over. Top times top, that would be 5x squared y to the 6 because you add exponents when you multiply like bases. 30 on the bottom, 7 plus 1 makes x to the 8. And what is there, a y to the 4th? 5 goes into 36 times. How many more x's are on bottom? 6. If you want 2 minus 8, would be x to the negative 6, which means it's on the bottom. Y to the 6 minus 4 would make it y to the 2nd on top. So hopefully you get y squared over 6x to the 6th. Number 2, we need to factor everything. This is going to factor into x plus 4, x minus 1, because they multiply to negative 4 and add to 3. This will factor to x plus 2 times x plus 2, perfect square trinomial. I could take a 2x out of the top, leaving me with an x plus 2. And on bottom, I could factor this into x times what? Negative 3 and x minus 1. They multiply to positive 3 and add to negative 4. Multiplication, you can make it one big fraction. What's going to divide out? I see an x plus 2 might divide with an x plus 2. An x minus 1 with an x minus 1. I don't see anything else top and bottom that would cancel. So that's 2x times x plus 4 divided by x plus 2 times x minus 3. And again, nothing cancels, so that would be the simplified answer. And finally, I think I was asked number 6 and number 4 from the quiz. 6 is an addition. You need a common denominator to add or subtract fractions. To do a common denominator, you need to have it factored. So this is going to factor as the difference of squares, x plus 3 times x minus 3. So what's my common denominator? I believe it would be x plus 3 times x minus 3. And I think the x is already over it. This needs the x plus 3 because it already has the minus 3 on the bottom. So what does that give me? 2x plus 6. So what is 2x plus 1x? 3x plus 6. Can you factor a 3 out of that? X plus 2. But again, nothing cancels, so you didn't really have to factor it. You could. It's good practice. But I hope I would accept any of these last couple answers here.